This Exmo's got something to say?
Oh, big surprise!
Oh, fuck off. Golden angels
Show the fruit
selling Jesus.
in an Armani suit.
Will a man rob God? Holy dividends turning profits
Into Caesar's friends.
Hosanna shout,
Shout.
For Jesus IPO revelation on the line.
On the line,
Hold the phone.
sing it loud, loud. Mammon Tabernacle Choir, stack the pews. With glass and fire, follow the prophet. Trumpet, raise the rent, tie the poor until they're spent.
Will the meek really inherit the earth? First shake them down,
For all their worth,
build a den of thieves
on the sacred side, build the kingdom.
with the widow's might. Hosanna shout,
Shout.
emerge again, ring God's closing bell. Amen.
Sing it loud, loud. Mammon Tabernacle Choir, stack the pews. With glass and fire, follow the prophet. Raise the rent, tie the poor until they're
Well, and there it is. Welcome to nighttime at the self-sustaining house. If one places the Lowe's bucket underneath the computer, very precariously, on the edge of the table where the Jackery battery is, connected to the propane-fed generator, one can get internet strong enough to stream. Not comfortably, but that will come. Hello, how are you? Let me just go over here. Welcome to the self-sustaining shed house. Shed, I said. You take my word for it. Some of you have seen my posts. We are currently in the insulating and drywalling stage. In any event, let's talk about Tyler Robinson. Hey, how's it going, agency? Been a while. Couldn't let this go by. Basically, the cops in the case, they are building against Tyler Robinson, who has been charged, has not pled guilty, and contrary to what you may have heard, still has never signed a confession of any kind that we know of. Multiple stories about a confession to dad. That's apparently a big part of the case here. And then allegedly a note, a handwritten note, which seems strange, and then text message conversations that I'm now confirming as I'm going back reading over old reports that at least at the time are maintained to be Discord messages. Or in other words, nobody actually appears to have hacked anybody's phone in order to have sent these text messages, which are pretty central to the case here. Basically, Tyler Robinson apparently admitting to somebody else that he did the crime, and then that person becoming pretty much the key witness in a story where nobody seems to be able to connect all the dots into this person did this thing. So, if you weren't watching today, Erica Kirk and the family of Charlie Kirk showed up to the hearing, preliminary hearing. It's not a trial. It is just what you do before you can take a case to trial. They're basically deciding whether or not there is probable cause. That was the word we were looking for in our last sleep-deprived late night show. It's 12:30 in the morning for me. I don't know how you guys are feeling, but I don't know. My back hurts, but I'm excited about getting through with this important messaging here. So, Tyler Robinson, in the mind of some, deserves the death penalty. And when I say some, I mean Donald Trump Sr. I'm sure Donald Trump Jr., if he disagrees, would never dare to say so. So all of this has more or less been haunted by the ghost of Donald Trump says that he has to get the death penalty. And so we'll make any crime happen to make it to get Donald Trump's orders filled. Now, can I prove that? I'm feeling good about my chances. Not at the moment. But I tell you what didn't help is when Donald Trump Jr. showed up to the hearing today, to the preliminary hearing with Erica Kirk and family of Charlie Kirk. They certainly have a right to show up. They certainly have a right to make a statement. They certainly have a right to demonstrate that they don't want to bias the case or taint the jury pool. However, everybody needs to understand their grief and that their grief has not gone away. That is entirely their right. I don't see a problem with that. Apparently, it became a bit of a grandstand. Apparently, it became a bit of a celebrity amateur hour. And that's why I'm calling this celebrity amateur hour. We have these people who are treating this preliminary hearing as if it is a fashion show, as if it is a red carpet walk, as if it is an opportunity to get a photo op with Charlie Kirk posthumously. And that's just ridiculous. Not only is it ridiculous, but it's a little surprising that the family of Charlie Kirk, and including his widow, wouldn't find it at least a little bit odd, a little bit even, what shall we say? Even taking advantage of this situation and of the grief of Charlie's family, and of course of the process, in order to garner more support for Turning Point USA. In fact, well, I'm going to leave it at that. But they are entitled to do as they want. It's a weird thing to do. It feels a little bit like dancing on the grave of a man who not only hasn't got a conviction, he hasn't got a trial. There's been no trial. And right now, I think it's probably for the best, especially because even if they can get a conviction out of this, I think the case is building up very quickly to what is going to be maybe a soft conviction sentencing, a soft sentencing as this is likely to be, and then an overturn on appeal. Because they are making the case, the defense is currently making the case as these, as you would expect, even let's not say it that way. Yeah, let's do it. Public defender, even your basic public defender is going to make a case that, nope, you can't admit that to evidence. No, that's not evidence. No, I'm sorry. That's, and they threw out all these different rules as to why the video evidence particularly shouldn't be published to the public and shouldn't be shown in the courtroom because their client, Tyler Robinson, is not getting a fair trial if you show these images and videos in the courtroom and also other statements, especially when it comes to videos and statements that are being recorded by people that the defense apparently has not questioned and cannot question in the court. And so they claim because the person or persons in these who took these videos that were presented today are not there to cross-examine, they should not be admissible. All of this is being done. Let me see if I can get my notes up here. I have my notes. Sorry, this is going to be a little awkward. All of this is being done because of Rule 1102 and Rule 804 of the Utah Rules of Evidence. Yeah, there you go. Rule 11.2, as I understand it, and I am not an attorney, says that basically under this rule, hearsay evidence from the police are allowable in the preliminary hearing to help the court establish probable cause. Even if sometimes those might not be allowable in trial. Rule 804, on the other hand, as I understand it, and I am not an attorney, says that hearsay evidence, reliable hearsay, is allowable and admissible in Utah courts, even at trial, and especially when it comes to police statements. And so we have this interesting conundrum. If the police can admit into evidence, if the state can admit into evidence, cop A says to cop B, I think this guy did it. And suddenly that becomes state evidence. At what point do people even have due process rights? I mean, two police officers. I mean, imagine if you haven't been watching the whole mini brick, whatever they call it, the whole Lego scandal that happened in American Fork with the American Fork Police Department. People I've known very well, I wouldn't say in a very friendly way. Some of them, I will say this. I say a lot of nasty things about the AFPD. I lived there in American Fork for over 10 years, and I had a lot of bad run-ins, a lot of bad experiences with the AFPD. However, none of them were arrests, just so we're clear. At least, none of them were arrests. But some of them are actually good guys. I'm thinking of like two. But one of the two I'm thinking of, his face showed up in this whole Lego fiasco. I haven't followed it closely, to be honest with you. I'm actually trying to avoid it so I don't get pissed off. But I did see his face. I'm like, wow, even that guy? Fuck, man. Anyway, we'll have to have a whole separate show on the AFPD. American Fork Police Department. They are gems. Anyway, but today, a couple of things I think were missteps on part of the prosecution, and more reason for me to say, wow, there are actually other motives and other persons of interest that are being discounted out of this in a way that feels a little bit like they want a conviction. And all of it, my thoughts all day today turn back again and again to Joe Hill. I did a show, I did a series about labor activist Joe Hill. Basically, guy was organizing coal miners here in Utah, and here in Utah. I'm elsewhere now. I'm just gonna start saying I'm elsewhere now. But who was convicted of shooting and killing a local Mormon bishop who was a local grocer, used to be a police officer at the time. This is back in 1910, 1915, something like that. This was back in the early 20th century. And basically all the evidence pointed to that. There's no way this man did this. It's not like him to use guns. He might have carried a gun that day because he felt unsafe. There was another shooting. There were other suspects. There was another vehicle. There were other, there were witness testimony. There was witness testimony, etc. And yet, the rumors, at least at some point, circulated that a high-placed family member of a church leader circulated at that time was selected in the jury. And before long, the hype around this former officer, this pillar of society, this man who was a bishop in the church, this man who was a noble, great leader and brother in Christ, and his son were killed. This guy Joe Hill has to take the firing squad, and that's exactly what happened. He was convicted, I think wrongfully. I'm not the first to say that. He was convicted wrongfully, and then given the death sentence, and he was executed summarily. All kinds of bad things happened connected with that, and my thoughts kept going back to that again and again. That and The Thin Blue Line, if you've ever seen the movie The Thin Blue Line. Oh, wow. Go for it, Jesse. Let us know what show it is. That's cool. Everybody follow Jesse. Are you going live with your account? That'd be great. In any event, I have not. Well, I mean, I have notes. I don't think I've published anything anywhere, but I'll gladly give you some if you want. I'll give you access to. I'll compile a document with everything that I am asking questions about. But I'll tell you this: the questions that came up today that I thought were very good. I thought actually our defense. I'm not Tyler Robinson. I'm not on trial. Thank goodness. I was there that day. I wasn't there for the actual crime, but I did drive through there as I was dropping my sister off at the shuttle, the St. George shuttle, and we got a little turned around. I ended up inside UVU's campus the while the agents were still, going around, and they followed me until I left the campus. I didn't even mean to end up there. I ended up in a back way, and they followed me. Believe me, until I left campus, they followed me very closely, and I was like, shit. But I was just in my van. Anyway, but the things that were revealed today. Number one, the lead case of Mr. Hull, or Agent Hull, Special Agent Hull, says he built basically the whole case around two main things. One was apparently cell phone footage from people in the parking lot tracking the movement of Tyler Robinson's car, namely the gray Dodge Challenger. Don't say Charger. People who are passionate about Dodge, at least Dodge muscle cars, will give you a rash you will never forget if you mistake a Charger for a Challenger or vice versa. Apparently, Tyler Robinson co-owns a Dodge Challenger. We knew that, with his mother, who is one of the witnesses in the story. Three principal key witnesses: Mom, Dad, and Luna, also apparently known as Twiggy or Twigs. I think I remember from earlier. I may be misstating and saying that that Twiggy was one of the names. I remember. It seems to me I remember that. Anyway, they apparently provided Discord messages, written confessional, and then Tyler Robinson apparently confessed to his parents before being picked up by Mike Mitchell and driven with his dad and Mike Mitchell, or just Mike Mitchell, and parents came along separately. Don't know exactly those arrangements, but they went to Hurricane, which is the way you say that. Those of you who've never been Southern Utah Mormons, Hurricane, spelled hurricane, but it's pronounced Hurricane. It's like something like Smash Fark. It's Utah Towak. Hurricane. They drive to Hurricane, 20-minute drive away, and they get there and he turns himself in and confesses. This lead investigator admits that after they've been tracking the movement of this Dodge Challenger on video footage, including surveillance footage, and, as I understand it, footage presented or volunteered from tips from people who were there recording with their phones. And combing through all of this, they were trying to track the movement of this gray Challenger. The thing that's interesting is that up until this point, he doesn't give any indication that they ran the plate number on the Charger until they got a tip from Washington County, saying, not really a tip, but an end-all be-all confession that shuts the whole investigation down. And this Detective Hull basically says, it's 24 hours later, we've got our man, because this guy, Tyler Robinson, confessed down in Washington County, and the sheriff down in Washington County, there in Hurricane, says, I came in with this guy. Everybody's identifying as formerly U.S. Marshal, or with the Marshals Service. Don't know about Mike Mitchell working for the Marshal Service. Early reports seem to indicate that he was saying, when I went back and reviewed them, said that he was a court security officer. Could be that he did that on the side. It certainly makes sense. We did talk about in our last broadcast about how apparently it does appear that Mike Mitchell, Tyler Robinson's former scoutmaster, member of Tyler Robinson's congregation, the Mormon Church, guy who knew him from the time he was just a wee lad, which wasn't that long ago, apparently was one of the most well-paid police officers in America in the Washington County Sheriff's Office. No shade to him, but does make one wonder, sleepy little Washington County, Utah, how is it that somebody can work for 25 years in the sheriff's office and start making $117,000 a year and then retire? I mean, shit, maybe I should switch careers. I mean, anybody can become a sheriff, right? You don't even need a degree. So, at least as far as I know, apparently, I can imagine Washington County. I mean, Nate Brooksby was the sheriff. I mean, at that point, you got a well-trained rhesus monkey. You got something. In any event, but the whole point that I'm getting at here is his case that he is using to identify that Tyler Robinson is their man, and he became convinced, is a phone call. Phone call from Nate Brooksby saying one of my guys, Mike Mitchell, who he doesn't want to name, and that's a little weird. It's a little weird. That one of his former guys, Mike Mitchell, who had just retired a couple of years ago, brought in this guy who confessed and turned himself in. Now there's no footage. This doesn't get mentioned yet in the preliminary trial and preliminary hearing, excuse me. If it goes to trial, I think it's sure that the defense will bring it up if they can in any way. There should be footage from the Washington County Sheriff's Office of Tyler Robinson turning himself in, voluntarily turning himself in. And there is not, according to them. According to them, they delete and annihilate all of their records after so long. And so when the media tried to get a hold of this footage, they just came back and said, there is no such footage. We don't know what you're talking about. And out of that meeting, this supposed meeting where they took the confession of Tyler Robinson, there is no signed document. I mean, I've been combing through again and again and again trying to find. There is no signed confession from Tyler Robinson anywhere that I can see. And the whole case really hinges on that. He told somebody he did it. Well, Shaka, you do you, baby. Quite literally. It's a little factory business. I mean, maybe you want to keep to yourself. It's a little bit harassy, but I don't know. I don't care. I'm into it. But Tyler Robinson's whole life, his very life, depends upon everybody telling the truth. And really, not even everybody. It's come down to pretty much 4 people. Mike Mitchell, Tyler Robinson's parents, and Twiggs. And so, of course, they're bringing in as much officer testimony as they can to try and beef up the case with, we have officers who think Tyler Robinson did it. The problem is that all of that goes to pieces. If it turns out that Nate Brooksby got on the phone, called this guy, Special Agent Hull, told him, you can stop your investigation, we got him, so that Spencer Cox could go on his little victory lap that he later has to redact, saying, well, we got him, and his name's Tyler Robinson. He confessed in Washington County. He's been placed under arrest, and everything's moving towards a trial. And ladies and gentlemen, we got him. And then almost immediately, had to come back out with a retraction of, okay, so you didn't confess. And he got this whole victory lap out of it. And one can't help but wonder, with all the performative grief over Charlie Kirk, I can't say I'll catch hell for saying this, but it's my opinion. For all of the performative, and it is very performative. We get this. We get this disclaimer on here. It is very performative, and for all the performative grief we're seeing around Erica Kirk's little, teary-eyed, victim, statements, and people making all these. I shouldn't say victim statements. That's like an official thing, but all of these people riding on the coattails of this tragedy makes you kind of wonder: does anybody actually grieve Charlie Kirk? Does anybody want his killer found? Do they really want justice for Charlie Kirk, or do they just want to see a man hang? And it's a little frustrating to me, because I look at it and say, people treat this like it's an open and shut case. Even in the comment stream, there's so many people advocating for that the state has a good case, that it makes you wonder if you ever watch the comments and live streams. I was watching, of all things, on the Megyn Kelly show, live streaming the case. It was just the first one that popped up. I was like, sure, whatever. And I'm watching this, and the number of comments that are obviously from bots, they're not obviously AI generated. There were every so many seconds, there's somebody posting Tyler James Robinson. I mean, just like throwing AI slop into the comment section, trying to, as much as possible, bring attention to the case. And it's like it just became another photo op. It became another opportunity to promote Turning Point USA, to promote Fox News, to promote that Donald Trump apparently is running for re-election and his son is his proxy. Whatever you have. Why do these people have to be there now? Why can't they make that statement from home? Why? Well, obviously they have to come in on the day where you can hear the shots fired on the recordings that are being played in the courtroom, so that Erica Kirk can apparently respectfully and quietly excuse herself and remove herself from the courtroom, because she doesn't want to hear that. She can't hear that. Well, I don't blame her. Why is she there at all? She obviously wants to make a statement. This is the point, though. At this point, every statement being made is potentially tainting the jury pool. My opinion, I'm not an attorney. Thank you. It's part of my beard. And I am a nerd, and I love it. I'm also old. So I don't know how much neener you're going to get out of that. But thank you. Thanks for being here. What the heck is there anybody actually grieving this man? And that's what really makes me wonder about this whole situation. It does make one feel a little bit like, if people are eager to show that they miss Charlie Kirk, that they want justice for Charlie Kirk, but they will accept the first story from law enforcement that comes out with all of its fishy evidence. Do they really want justice? Do they really care? It's a little bit shocking, especially when everything hinges on this. There was allegedly an unrecorded conversation in private between Tyler Robinson and his dad. At that point, all I see that's the major problem here is that he can say, yeah, you can prove that I was there that day. You can prove that my Dodge Challenger was there, even. Because if they have all this footage, surveillance footage, there are cameras all up and down the I-15. There are cameras all over in like every intersection in Utah County. You can't take 10 steps anywhere in Utah County without being monitored by the police state. So, I mean, I used to go for my walks, and just sometimes I would walk at night when I couldn't sleep in American Fork. just down the road from Orem, and I would just count all the security cameras I could see. Just boom, 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 boom. These are public security cameras. They're everywhere. And so it's remarkable that it took them that long to find out this silver Dodge Challenger was Tyler Robinson's. If he went home the next day, if he left that, and if he brought that car off of the campus parking lot that day and out onto any street in Utah County, they'd have a clear shot of his license plate. So how is it then that in the time that elapses, those a little over 24 hours, they haven't even bothered to run the plate on this. They have to learn from the Washington County Sheriff's Office that there's a Tyler Robinson who has a silver Challenger. So there you go. I mean, it's just the whole case. The reason why they're invoking this Rule 1102 for reliable hearsay is because they knew they didn't have a case going in, and they know the whole case hinges upon putting the story together, and in a way that is frankly a little bit unprofessional. I don't know. I haven't seen the footage, but apparently the footage they tried to submit today that was quashed included a video file that zooms in on certain persons and puts a red circle around them and blurs out other people as part of the processing in the image. And the defense stood up and objected and said, that's altered footage. You can't tell us you're going to admit that into evidence. They are showing footage that they have digitally processed. That's not allowable in court. And the judge had to rule in the defense's favor on that and say, that is true. You are trying to pass off on us footage that is not raw, that has been processed. And we can't accept that into evidence. We can't let you go to trial with that. Now, as far as I know, that just means they have to go and get the original raw files and then submit them tomorrow, or at least by the end of the week, because apparently the preliminary hearings last until Friday. Is my understanding anyways. So, yeah, they can do that. But you see how the presentation is going. They want you to see that they've put together confirmation of what they heard about the Discord confession of Tyler Robinson based upon his confession. But up until his alleged confession, they didn't know who did it. They didn't know who to look for. They knew they knew they were looking for a Dodge Challenger here. Apparently, they knew they were looking for somebody with a baseball cap. They were looking blah 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 blah. But then the lead investigator gets asked from the SBI, that's the State Bureau of Investigation. Special Agent Hall gets asked, "Can you identify that person in the room?" I don't know if you noticed this, but if you watch all the way up until that point, which is at the end of the day, the defense got very, very jumped right at the chance to point out that that's definitely breaking the rules. That you can't is like, wait a minute, you can't identify the person at the defense table who's obviously the defendant in the case as being singled out by the police officer, by the lead investigator as a person who did the crime, when he is being pointed out simply as being, or even as a person who was present at the crime. You have to, you're highlighting that it's him in a way that is harassing him and not giving him a fair trial. Everybody understands that we're here to talk about Tyler Robinson. Everybody knows what he looks like. This is just, at this point, this is trying to blame him for the crime when all that this officer at the time was admitting to, that he was talking about, was that Tyler Robinson had a driver's license. Well, of course he had a driver's license. We have footage of him in car accidents with his mom. Okay, of course he has a driver's license. How old is this kid? And yet he's saying, yeah, can you identify that the person in the room, the person who that there's a person in this room, the state was asking, effectively, as I understand it, and I'm not an attorney. Is there someone in this room who you saw their license, saw the registration of a vehicle that matches the description of the vehicle that you claim to have been tracking in this footage that we are presenting over here of a silver charger in UVU's campus on September 10th. And so he's not just identifying Tyler Robinson as committing crime. He's not identified Tyler Robinson as even having a driver's license. He's supposed to be identifying Tyler Robinson as being the same dude who's driving this silver Challenger around UVU's campus, and based on nothing else but his hunch, his opinion. Because at that point, apparently, they don't have a license plate number, at least according to what I've seen so far. Now, if that's not true, I wish that, I hope we figure out something like better than that. Okay, how did we end up with all of these interesting folks? Anyways, welcome, weirdos. So yeah, that's the case. Let me see here. Let me just check my notes. Yep. What else was I going to mention? That was pretty much everything. So anyways, we didn't really learn anything key and pivotal about this case today, except that the state stopped investigating at the alleged confession. There, at that point, there are no persons of interest. There are no other investigations. And it's strange because there was a guy present at UVU who confessed and told police he did it. They say he is a known agitator, that he does this, but he did know to be there on the day that a crime was committed. He just got lucky. He's just some guy's got like some kind of death wish or something. Why is he there? What is his business with agitating the police or agitating the process? Or is somebody putting him up to it? Was he a distraction? And if so, what's the likelihood that Tyler Robinson got some old man to run interference for him and say, hey, go, you're going to show up this day. You're going to go and run up to the cops and tell them that you did it. So that I can get a chance to get away. Is that really, is Tyler Robinson that clever? Because that'd be a pretty clever scheme. It seems kind of strange to me. Seems more like an organized effort. Somebody made sure that this guy was going to be there that day, or that guy did it. How do we know he didn't? How do you know he didn't? Why was he so quickly ruled out? Just because he's an agitator? He's known to the police. Great. Is he known to not commit crimes? It's strange that they just quickly just decided, nope, we're not going to investigate anybody else. We got it. We got the guy. We got it. And for all they know, the person who actually did this is out there still. Just to reiterate a few things that I see that keep cropping up again and again. One is that there is this Rode microphone and debris from the Rode microphone. I don't know how plausible it is that there was a destroyed Rode microphone. Rode is RODE. The magnetic microphone that he wears on his chest, that Charlie Kirk wears on his chest. The problem that I see with it is he was wearing it on the right side of his chest, and the entry wound very clearly was on the other side of his throat. If that Rode microphone was in some way damaged in what happened here. First of all, if the medical examiner is to be believed, you're going to end up with lead fragments inside Charlie Kirk's body in a way that the medical examiner will identify as being a gunshot wound. So whatever ends up in Charlie Kirk's body is allegedly a bullet, or at least made of the materials. I'm talking about Tyler Robinson, Derek. Welcome. I did know that Kirk is Celtic for church. That's a good point. Well, I know that that's Scottish for church, I believe. Anyway, but I mean, what is that? The modern? How ancient is that? Back to what do you call it? Gaelic, etc. But anyways, my understanding is that it is Gaelic. I could be wrong about that. But the weird thing about the case that happened today, the preliminary hearing today, is that they admitted to only being able to rely on hearsay evidence because they stopped looking at after the confession that they now have no actual documentary evidence of. The closest thing they're going to have is this written confession and or the testimony, the Discord confession, and the testimony of Tyler Robinson's parents and Twigs. So at this point, I think that we are still very much warranted in throwing out some other plausible possibilities. I was thinking about the Phil Lyman connection the other day, just yesterday. By the way, all of this Phil Lyman, Tim Ballard narrative is intriguing in how quickly now the bot army that is being used to flood comments on YouTube and so forth is putting out that there are people who are conspiracy theorists. Who's more of a conspiracy theorist than these Mormons? I was watching today Zion Media. I don't know if you guys are following this, but Zion Media did another episode on SRA inside the Mormon Church, where they brought on a guy from Vegas. His name is Jerem, so Mormon for sure, born Mormon, like covenant Mormon, who says he listened to these stories allegedly about David A. Bednar, who's a Mormon apostle, specifically about David A. Bednar committing SRA with young people. And they started to go over this case about these memories these people have that when they were kids, somebody did something to them. And that it had to do with satanic rituals and, the Church of Satan, the Latter-day Church of Satan or whatever, etc. And that this young man, well, I don't know how young he is, younger than me, had decided that he had to pray to find out if what these people were saying was true. And while he was in the act of praying, he took out some kind of document and started basically automatic writing. If you don't know automatic writing, it's exactly what it sounds like. That you can hear the voice of spirits or the voice of yourself in the unconscious world, or that you can receive revelation from God and just start typing it out. And as the words are flowing out of you, if you're in a certain spiritual state of mind, then you can receive revelations from God. And this man apparently dictated and wrote out an entire revelation, Joseph Smith style, confirming that there was SRA in the Mormon Church. Kind of already knew there was something like that. When it's Christian ritual abuse, they don't really seem to care, which is weird. I know plenty of Mormons who do care when rituals are abused in the church to mimic Christian belief and Christian marriage and Christian everything else. I mean, there are a lot of Mormons who don't like Warren Jeffs and what he did, don't want to think about that it wasn't that different under Brigham Young and under Lorenzo Snow and under John Taylor and so on and so forth all the way down. So, but because this young man, they were talking about, had felt like he needed to dictate a revelation from God, they had to record it and ask everybody in the Zion media camp, or already people who at least are interested and or following Shane Baldwin, who is also dictating his own revelations now, and apparently been either excommunicated from the church or on the verge of it. And started giving them opportunity, and started giving these people opportunities to start receiving revelations and to start hearing other people's revelations. They've practically been been recruited into this movement by this guy Briggs, who apparently is a new prophet, new evangelical prophet, doesn't like Mormons particularly, who apparently accurately predicted the second attempt on the president. And so, okay, he's a prophet now because he can predict, current events before they happen. Now he's a prophet. Okay. And that guy says that the Mormon church apparently is falling apart, dividing against itself. Wow, it really takes a spiritual touchstone to be able to see what everybody can see who can read a newspaper. But all right. But it heaven help you if a bunch of Mormons have to decide whether you are guilty or innocent, because they're going to pray about it and ask God what they already feel about you, and what they feel in their hearts is actually true. And lo and behold, almost invariably, if a Mormon prays to ask God if his own opinion is the same as God's opinion and it is truth, the answer tends to come out yes. So it comes to be a problem. Mormons do pray. They pray to the same heavenly Papa that you do. They are God worshippers. They love him. Some of them apparently, some of these Mormons, I will say, now apparently are praying to Heavenly Mother as well. So that's apparently a thing. So yeah. Here's what I'm looking at. Yes, I'm willing to admit the strong indications that seems to me that there may have been an order from Bibi Netanyahu involved here. That doesn't mean that it's an official operation of any state. And because right now the Donald Trump Jr. attendance has me smelling something fishy. I don't know how close he is into the state, or even to his father's role in these United States. But the family just having a presence at the case, at the trial, at the preliminary hearing, excuse me, it feels inappropriate. It feels like grandstanding. It feels like exploiting a sensitive moment and potentially interfering in the process. But apparently we live in a society where it just doesn't matter anymore. Just like, oh, you apparently can taint the jury pool. You can ruin the political process and ensure that due process is not actually constitutionally guaranteed to anyone. And that's fine. It's no big deal. Just keep going. And personally, I don't love it. Anyways, so that's where we are with this. Well, I don't know about that. Thank you for being here. Anyways, so I'm going to try to do more regular lives, hopefully, as we get the house finished here. Again, I don't know if you guys are how much interest you have, but it's really kind of hard to see. In fact, okay, yeah. Got all the drywall up in my son's bedroom way down at the end. I got drywall coming up over here on the door, around the door here. Got my air conditioner. I am lucky enough to now have a battery that is that I'm running off of right now. That's pretty good. Jackery battery. I'm not being paid by anybody to present. Well, I'm not getting paid by anybody, period. But I am going forward. Soon we will have drywall all around. We're starting into building a bathroom. The framing will be finished this week, hopefully, and it looks like I have come into a mini split. And so now we will also have heating in the winter, and we will have a sustainable system for using the generator, for air conditioning, and for charging the battery until we can get solar set up, and then getting the mini split to run off of the battery as well. So in other words, we are a generator. It's a generator run house completely off grid. Super excited about that. Because we are going to be dedicating more and more time to doing the Church of Korihor work. Yep. It's a mini split that my partner bought for their son, who said he didn't want it. It was too big. I was like, we'll take. So originally I'd wanted to put a mini split in here. I'm not really sure how I talked myself out of it, but I am still going to put in a propane heater because I have weathered the winter here, and it gets cold. Oh, I'm not getting into any of that. But I will say this. I want to know Mike Mitchell's career in law enforcement that isn't being promoted online. Is he Mossad? Is he CIA? Why is it that his name, they break all these rules to try and avoid mentioning Mike Mitchell's name? And it's weird for somebody who is not a spy. And if he is not a spy, why don't we know more about him? Why can't I research more about him? The best I got is I can see that his pay stubs, his paycheck in 2022, a couple of years before he retired, was $117,000 a year. And that's about all I know about this guy, apart from he may be the same guy who ran a net nanny scheme for Utah County or for Salt Lake County when he started his career way back in 1999. How is he connected to Tim Ballard? Is he connected to Tim Ballard and Operation Underground Railroad? Is he connected to Ken Krogh? Is he connected into the Trump administration? Because if he's connected with those guys, he's in with the Trump administration somewhere. So who gives orders to this guy? What kind of orders are they capable of giving? And who benefited from all of this? If they are acting as agents of somebody, if they're part of framing Tyler Robinson, why? What benefit do they get from it? So there we go. It's something, Jesse says. Anyways, I am 1 hour in, and I am beat because it is 1:30 in the morning here. I love you, faces. I'm going to see you tomorrow, hopefully with some better lighting and better, stronger internet, and maybe a more finished house. So great to see you guys. I hope that you are very well. And we will. I'm probably going to end up streaming tomorrow. I'm probably going to cover the case pretty much on a daily basis now. So, hey, Vent. Love you, faces. No closing him tonight because I am beat. But I'll see you.